Good evening, Cebu. Good evening, Philippines. It's open mic night tonight, and we have Senator Bongbong Marcos, the next Vice President.
Oh,
of the
well,
Philippines.
we have a ways to go, but thank you. Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you,
to the
Mike.
show.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh, you're very kind. I should thank you for giving me the chance to speak about some of the issues that are before us.
And it's been a very busy couple of days for you in Cebu.
Yes, it has. I arrived in Cebu City Friday morning. I've been going around meeting with some of our friends here and did a couple of motorcades. And today we did the same thing. So yes, it's been quite busy because Cebu is a large place and with lots of people, and there's a lot of work that we need to do.
And I heard you met with majority of our barangay captains in Cebu City.
Yes, I asked to see them because I am very much a product of local government.
That's true.
And I have great esteem for our barangay officials, our local government officials. And
You chair the Senate Committee.
I chair the Senate Committee on Local Government. And that was upon my request when I first became senator, simply because I always felt that local government should have a strong voice with the national government. And so I asked to be chairman of local
and of course,
government.
you've had extensive experience
I-
in that regard.
In many ways, I feel I'm a product of local government because of my 9 years as governor. But previous to that, I was already governor and vice governor. But it really makes very, very clear how government works or doesn't work or should work at the grassroots level. Because every day you are in contact not with other politicians, not with high officials, but with ordinary people.
And like they say, all politics is local.
Oh, absolutely. I am a firm believer in that saying. That is absolutely true. And even for like I am now a national candidate, you really have to have a good understanding of the different issues in each locality. Otherwise, it's very hard to be successful.
I'm looking at speaking of being a national candidate and probably all of this alliances and affiliations that you've forged throughout the years. It seems like even for parties or for candidates, for local political leaders who are affiliated with UNA or Graceful or Duterte or even LP, they blur the line when it comes to you. You're getting a lot of support from across different political affiliations.
Yes, that seems to be what's been happening over the past few weeks. And of course, I'm very grateful to all of those who have expressed support for my campaign and my candidacy. But it seems to be also the nature of politics in this election, at least, that people are voting on the basis of individual. Their judgment on individual character or individual.
Not so much party.
Party doesn't seem to play as big a role as it used to, at least not in this election. And it's not. It is. Even the parties with big and well-organized machineries are not using them.
That's true.
Which is something
unique, no? Very unique, peculiar.
Peculiar. I speak to my other colleagues who are in politics, and we all medyo magulo yata itong election na ito, and we all unanimously agree that that's the case. It is complex in the sense that you do not see the political forces or the political entities as blocks in terms of political parties. Really, now the judgment is made on individuals.
And I think it's also the first presidential election. Of course, 2010 had Facebook, but Facebook in 2010 is a lot different from Facebook now. In terms of how many people are on Facebook.
That's right.
The platform itself has changed.
Yes.
Sharing. There was no sharing then.
Yes.
So the concept of viral was limited to YouTube at that time.
That's right. Yeah.
And then and the commenters, and then now you can reply on comments.
Yes.
So it's a lot different, and it seems like you're dominating social media also.
Well, we're simply because I think what has happened is it is an alternative to the traditional media. and young people have embraced it. Like young people always embrace new technologies much more quickly than the rest of us. So it really has become the refuge of young people to discuss all issues, not only politics, but all issues amongst themselves. And
it's very empowering, in other words.
it is a real equalizer. And that is why I was very adamant when the laws were being studied to have libel that was punished more severely on the internet than it was in print and broadcast. And I said, but you cannot muzzle. First of all, the technology is not available. What are you going to do? You cannot stop the internet. Secondly, you must allow it, because it's the only place where you can interact with somebody who has written. If I read a blog and I like what they do or I didn't like, instantly I can answer.
That's true.
And very soon after they will answer
There's
back.
right of reply.
That's exactly right. Whereas with other
print
media,
you cannot.
that's not the case. So it's very, as you say, empowering, and it gives everyone the right to be part of the discussion.
Of course, yeah.
Not just taking in all of the inputs or the opinions of other people. At the same time, we have to be more discerning, because we don't know that who is writing this blog, who is writing these comments.
Oh, he's commenting, yeah.
Yeah, it might be a real expert, or it might be just somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. But that makes it a little more open. But at the same time, we have to be the ones we have to be the ones to decide who is saying right or not.
Writing a column for 5 years. Debbie, my former editor, is here, and then in the Philippine Star website, you have all these trolls, and you have the regular trolls. I know them by name.
Oh.
But I don't dignify anymore, because you can distinguish which is a valid comment and which is one that you just disregard.
And I think that that's a good thing, because at the very beginning, as you were saying, the concept of viral, people tried to make everything that they wanted viral. But we've learned to discern, again, to say, ay nako, it's all at the same time, it's all at, walang friends ito, titignan mo sa.
And even websites now, no?
Yes, also.
We're starting to learn. Before Adobo Chronicles, that was passed around like it was gospel truth.
Sure.
And then now people can tell, hopefully more people can tell the difference between a hoax or what do you call that, a spoof. Or,
I think we've gotten over the idea that it must be true. It was on the internet. People no longer believe that necessarily.
But you mentioned young people, and young people being on the internet. Young people account for under 35. The figures
under
say,
35 for the voting population of 35 and below is now 44.4% of our registered voters.
So almost half. Nearly half of the registered voters are millennials, both young and older millennials. Because I'm an older millennial.
Older, I cannot see you as an older anything.
Well, thank you, but I'm an older millennial based on the strict demarcation. And you're very strong when it comes to that demographic.
Well, I've spent a lot of time in public service trying to promote the youth movement. I have always believed we have always been a young country, the Philippines, and I think it seems we're growing younger. And
you're a very youthful candidate. Are you the youngest of all of the candidates for vice president?
No, I don't think so.
But you look like you're the most baby-faced.
Well, I always say when people tell me that the reason that is because I chose my parents very well.
It's in the genes. I agree, it's in the genes. And you have a full head of hair, unlike some people who are insecure.
There is that. Again, I'm lucky that way. But
your mom has a lot of hair, so how can you not have?
Oh, sure. She has a very distinctive hairstyle that's well recognized.
Yes. So young people are for you, because when you look at all the mock elections in the different universities, practically all of the results have you as the leading candidate.
That has been very gratifying to see, actually. And I think that comes from the fact of the work that I've done empowering the youth movement and trying to do the National Youth Commission was
which you were commissioner
of, was a creation of mine. I authored the bill that created, we called it the Philippine Youth Commission. It's since been named the National Youth Commission, from which derived the Sangguniang Kabataan. And we have now rewritten the SK law, and we have reformed the system for SK. And there is now a katipunan ng kabataan. So, I think it comes from that.
You have championed
all the time, and there were moves to abolish the SK, and we resisted that very, very
You
strongly.
championed reform.
We said we cannot abolish it because the voice of the youth is important. We need it.
It's the only model, because I represented the country in the United Nations General Assembly, and in fact, it was a centerpiece. No, of course, I personally presented the weakness of the SK, but then again, it is in Asia or in Southeast Asia. It is the only model for actual participation of young people in young people in governance, in the democratic process. They're elected.
We have actually expanded the role that young people play in government in many ways, and that's what the SK Reform Bill was about. But I think beyond that, the young people tend to look to the future, and I speak about the future. Because when I talk to people, ordinary citizens, that is what they want to know. What is going to happen in the future? What are you going to do to make our future brighter? And so because that is what concerns them, that is what I speak about. And
it resonates.
I think young people are because the future is so uncertain for them, especially Filipino graduates, for example. They worry about where they're going to get their jobs, how they're going to raise their families, how they're going to start a career, all of those things.
Issues.
Very well, it's hardly surprising, and it is unclear. We have fallen very far short of providing them those the guidelines to say that no, your future, at least there is hope. You work hard, get a little lucky, and you'll be all right. But we haven't managed to do that yet. And I propose many things that can be done so we can provide at least a hope for our young people, that you don't have to travel abroad, that you don't have to take a menial job, that you can in fact make a decent living. And that's really what people are worried about.
Or they can travel abroad, but at least they have a choice.
At least
exactly. They do, it's their
choice. They have a choice. But most of our 10 million OFWs, if given the choice, would rather be with their families and loved ones. There was a very interesting study made by, I think it was the ADB, that said that at the managerial level, Filipinos are willing to take a 50% cut in pay if they live in the Philippines. And that just goes to show how much Filipinos love their families and love their friends and love their communities. And so that is something, and that for me is a big failure on the part of government, that we are not able to provide jobs, that they have to make such extreme sacrifices. And thank God for the Filipino worker, that because we always now hear that it is the OFW remittances that comprise now 20% of our economy.
And your father said that before, that the Filipino is the citizen of the world.
Oh yes, that was very much his idea, that we as Filipinos can be anywhere, can live anywhere, can be accepted anywhere.
It is an idea that is now a reality that is helping us keep afloat.
Yes, although the OFW, the concept of the OFW started in the 70s after the oil crisis, and it was meant to be a temporary solution. And so we would like to return to that idea, and hopefully
it is an option.
Given an opportunity, that those who would like to come home, that they can come home and work here.
The diaspora is an option, not the only recourse.
No, not the only recourse.
We'll talk more when we return from the short break. We have here Senator Bongbong Marcos. We're back here in Open Mic with Senator Bongbong Marcos. So, Senator, Kuya. we talked about young people, no, and they're very. A lot of them are very passionate for you, and of course, there is always an opposing force.
Sure.
You are controversial because of your family name, but it's interesting. I'd like to opine also that it's interesting how some people, for example, they say, do not vote according to personalities. That's what they say. No, that's the advice. You have to vote according to platform and performance, not personalities. But that should go both ways, right?
Well,
Meaning to say, if that is what they use against you, that is also what is used for you.
Yes.
Because then disregard the family name.
yes.
Look at the performance and the track record.
But it's character still has a lot to do with it. Of course, performance and record is important, and you cannot. If I always believe that the best politics is performance.
True.
Because if you have performed well, if you have done your job well, if you have helped people, if you have managed to make things better, they can never take that away from you. No matter what mudslinging goes on, no, kahit ano pang murang abutin mo, it will still be yours and it will be something that you had done, and the people that you've helped will still have been helped. And so that's important. But but character is also important. What kind of person are you? Are you really sincere? Are you honest? Or
But action should speak louder than words.
Oh, absolutely.
Because some people, like one of your opponents, would always talk about her character. But for me, what is the basis? You can't just say that you have good character. A person who says she's humble is not humble. I mean, that is my opinion. I have to see it.
Yeah.
You can't just be saying that you're humble and then I will take your word for it.
well, yes, that's why the proof is still in the pudding. That's why performance is still the key. And I think at an advantage in that regard, because I have been in government for quite a long time. I started off in local government and I became a legislator. I spent 9 years as governor of Ilocos Norte before becoming senator.
Speaking of that, no, like I was having a discussion with a friend who is not yet sure who he is going to vote for vice president, and of course he lists apprehensions for every candidate, and then in your case, it's your surname, not because he does not like the Marcoses, but just because maybe it's time for someone new. And then I say, but everything held constant. You look at the 4 candidates. Oh well, no, there's 5. I always forget. There's 5. So I forget about. Sorry, Gringo.
I won't. I was going to say I won't ask you who you dropped, but
I forgot Gringo. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But there's 5. Of the 5, again, everything held constant. Who is the most qualified in terms of experience? And then he concedes. I mean, that's both legislative and executive experience. And if you break down legislative, that's lower and upper house. Yeah. And it's not as if, like we say, the Marcoses are the quintessential kingpins of local politics. If you consider Ilocos, diba?
Yes.
I mean,
perhaps, yes.
Academic discussion.
In a way, yes.
You are the quintessential kingpins of local politics. You have probably defined what a baluarte is with the solid north. But what's interesting is compared to the other kingpins in other localities, is that when you look at Ilocos, it's progressive.
Yes.
There is really an effort of local government to invest in culture, the arts, infrastructure, the windmills, some of the cheapest electricity costs in Southeast Asia. How do you dispute that, right?
Yes.
I mean, some kingpins, they like their constituents na lugmok sa kahirapan, so they control.
So they can control. Yes.
So what is your argument against that? There's no argument against it.
No, it's very simple. You really, again, I really believe that we were put on this earth for public service, and so that is what we do. That is what I always remember. Both my parents always reminding us that whatever we are as a family, as a name, it all comes from the people. It's not something that we possess. We were born with. It is something that people were good enough and kind enough and generous enough to grant us. And it is something that we continue to have to pay back for the rest of our lives. And that is where all what we do, what motivates us, where it comes from. And so it's simply not acceptable to just take a position because you can.
That's true.
And sit there and twiddle your thumbs and do nothing. It's exceedingly important that you pay back the trust, that the mandate that people
You
give
never
you.
rested on your laurels.
As far as we're concerned, there are no laurels. They don't. That's your job. Hindi maaaring maging maya, ay, ginawa ko yan. Dapat mo talagang gawin yan, trabaho mo yan.
I even said, no, na parang, like when you look at the Senate, your performance in the Senate, we owe him a lot for at least fighting that unconstitutional Bangsamoro Basic Law.
Yes, well,
Of course, you're not opposed to the idea of a lasting peace in Mindanao, but
quite the
let's do it
contrary.
right.
That is why the reason that I did not support the BBL draft that was given to us by the palace was because at first it was unconstitutional, and secondly, I did not believe that it would bring peace. And what we want is peace. So that is why immediately, having read it, I wrote a substitute bill that I knew would be legal and constitutional, and secondly was inclusive of all the sectors, so that it would in fact bring peace. So you have a compromise that included everyone, everyone was part of the arrangement, everyone was part of the agreement, because what the government had done was to speak to only one group, and the other groups were excluded and had great concern and suspicion and fear, to tell the truth, fear of what would happen when they were left out. And I'm talking about stakeholders like the MNLF, stakeholders like the Sultanates, the Lumads, the Christians, the local governments, the business community, the women, all of these very important sectors. And we were saying that you cannot have a successful peace without the help of these sectors.
That's true.
That's why you have to bring them into the discussion, and which is what we did. I conducted hearings for all of them.
It seemed like a very simpleton solution to something multifarious. No? I mean,
the more we studied it, the more complex it
Yes.
became, because this has been a situation that has been evolving over hundreds of
it's
years.
not just political; it's cultural.
It's religious. It really cuts across all the parts
That's
of everyday life and the actual principles and ideas that people live by.
And then people were saying it's quite ironic that you, Marcos, was defending the Cory Constitution that the son of the same president wanted to bastardize.
It was
You don't have to comment.
the Philippine Constitution, the Philippine Constitution Association, gave me a recognition, saying that I was a defender of the Constitution. So when I spoke, and I said it is ironic that number one, I'm not a lawyer, and secondly, that Ferdinand Marcos is defending the Cory Constitution, which got a good laugh from all of those in attendance.
But maybe because he was just eager to have a Nobel nomination. That was people were talking
I know
about
that was the rumor. If that was indeed the case, then again it would not have brought peace, and that's why we did everything that we could to make sure that there was the end result is peace. And even after it started to become heavy going, in the sense that we couldn't get a quorum in the House of Representatives to continue to deliberate the bills, and we were going through a substitute bill in the Senate, and it looked like it may not finish by the end of this Congress. I started saying that it was important, whatever happens to the basic law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, that if it is finished or if it is not, we need to continue the peace process. And to my great gratification and satisfaction and happiness, really, I heard the same thing from Chairman Murad and Chairman Iqbal, the head of the MILF and the head of the panel that negotiated with the government, that yes, even if it does not pass this time, that we still have to continue. And I think that is why it is very important to recognize that I believe that those leaders of the MILF truly are our partners in peace, and we have a great opportunity. We have a great opportunity to find the true and lasting peace that will be equitable to everyone involved.
There was a piece recently in Rappler, which has not been very friendly. But there was a piece recently in Rappler that by Miriam Grace Go, and it was interesting. There was a part there that where she said some very valid points that all of this this effort to campaign against you is not going to stick in the next 2 months unless they can present a valid argument on why this particular Marcos performed much better in the Senate than the Aquino who is president now. As a senator, meaning as a senator.
I did.
Did you get to read that?
Yes, but I wouldn't. I don't. I can only control myself, and that's always been my idea. And you can comment and have an opinion about what other people do, but in the end, the only thing that you can truly speak about with any authority is what you have done.
It's true.
And so
you can only speak for yourself.
Absolutely. So I will confine my comments to what I have done.
What is the one law that you've authored that you are particularly proud of?
Youth Commission is something that I believe was very important. The other law that I believe was very important was the baselines law, and that was in the House. But in the Senate, I have done a lot in terms of the SK reform law for the local government.
It's all basically young people. No?
Well, they are important issues, and there are things that they need to be done. But in the Senate, I have tried to be the voice for local government, and I feel
you have done a good job.
I think I have succeeded in many ways. There's much work that needs still to be done, but we have made some progress in recognizing the role and the importance of local government, and the way that national government needs to support local government. I authored a barangay retirement benefits bill, which gives finally some benefits to our barangay officials when they retire, because up to now they really don't receive anything. We have worked very hard to provide them with their scholarships that are promised in the local government code. So these are the areas that I feel that are sort of very nuts and bolts, and maybe not terribly glamorous, but they're very important for the proper running of our government, the administration of the services that we are providing to people.
You talked about the National Youth Commission, and we also talked about the voters, young voters being comprising 44%. So do you think it's time that we revisit also the National Youth Commission and maybe expand its powers, its scope? Because other countries have a youth ministry, an actual department for youth.
Yes, absolutely. I think that we have tried to expand the role of young people in the SK reform law, and what we have done is essentially expanded the age range, and it now encompasses. We now have a katipunan ng kabataan.
At least they're a bit more mature than before.
We also, and besides that, we also were able to. We looked and studied what other countries were doing, what international agencies were doing, and so we extended the age to 30 years old.
It's much better.
And the young people will say, but 30 is not young.
No, it is.
But it is. It is in many places. And they have experience that very young people do not have. And they have perhaps more time on their hands because young people are studying. So that's something that we have tried to expand, and because the role of the young people in government, especially in a young country such as the Philippines, is extremely important. Young people have their own issues that are different from what the elder people do not bother about or worry about. Things like bullying and drugs and tuition fees and things like that. They need to know how government works. The time will come when we're all gone, and they will have to take over, and they have to be ready and prepared. And the truth of the matter is, internet's a perfect example. We need new energy, new blood, new ideas, and we need people who understand the present and what the future is going to bring. Those of us who were born earlier, maybe not so. We don't understand it, or we do not take to it so easily as young people.
But you are very savvy, when it comes to the language of young people. So is that that's a plus, definitely. As a leader, you have to be able to speak a language that your constituency can understand, no?
Well, it is the language of the day, and it is what it is. It is the way you can communicate, and it is important.
Even your videos, I was telling you over the break that the Star Wars from the sand dunes of Hawaii.
But the truth of the matter is, Star Wars is of my generation.
True.
There was no adjustment needed. I remember I actually watched Star Wars together with my dad when it first came out
in '83.
Yes, it was about 83. We watched it together.
This is the last one, I think.
And we kept saying, how did they do that? How did they do that? Now we see it. It looks so old-fashioned and clunky.
That's true. But I love Star Wars. I wanted to watch the first three before the first six.
Yes.
First six before I watched the seventh. I watched the whole thing before the seventh.
Again?
Yes.
Just to review.
Yes.
The seventh was great.
That's my personal protocol.
I'm waiting to watch the seventh one again. I watched it together with my sons, and I know that I'm going to be watching it many times still.
6 times. More of Senator Bongbong Marcos when Open Mic returns from the short break. We're back here at Open Mic with Senator Bongbong Marcos. Well, over the break, we're talking about your mom.
Yes.
I have some anecdotes from her, and what people don't understand, I think it's just, like some of the lolas who lived through the war, they're hoarders.
Yeah.
And I think your mom is really just a hoarder.
Oh, she doesn't throw anything away.
Yeah. One time, she asked me to travel with her to Baguio to speak in that DepEd event.
Okay.
And we stopped by Tarlac, the isdaan or something.
Okay.
And so she was eating it. She eats a lot, no? And that was the time when I ate a lot, and she was still eating more than me. And then when no one was watching, her nurse, of course, she poured a bottle of water. But when no one was watching, and I was observing her, she poured it.
Yung hindi niya nainom.
Konti na lang natira. She poured it back, and then sayang. Because see, this is what people do not see, and the little things. She's very.
Because I think many people who went through the war are like that.
Yeah.
That they never know.
Next meal.
And I asked her, actually, and I said, she actually was hungry. They went through hunger, and they did not know where their next meal would be coming from. And when you get that way, whenever you have something, you keep it, you hang on to it, you make sure that it's a part of her character, and I've seen it in, as you say, many of the people.
Unguarded moments pa niya. Diba?
I know people who have warehouses still in the back of their houses, complete with dilata and all kinds of things that they completely full just in case.
And that's how she is. In her unguarded moments, you see that quality. It's actually very cute. No? I'm not Imelda Marcos, but sometimes I leave my water and I don't finish it. But she poured it back.
My mother was already a recycler before it became fashionable. She recycles everything: food, clothes, you name it. She will not throw it away. She'll find a way to use it in another way, or she will try to find a way to use it somehow. Because
kasi ayaw nga magtapon.
and of course encouraged by my father, the Ilocano, who does not throw anything away either.
Okay. So. But it's very cute, no? At that same time, must have been 2008. And then we were walking out of Isdaan. Diba, that's a place with big rebultos. Like there's a huge Buddha. There was a small, life-size statue, nakaupo in a bench of Cory Aquino and Cardinal Sin.
Oh, okay.
And then she saw from afar, oh, Cory and Cardinal Sin. And then she was so excited. Take my picture. She did like this. Walang hang-ups, no hang-ups.
That sounds like my mom.
And then when we were in the car, in the what do you call this, in the bus, she said, "Whose camera was that? Can I see?" She was like, "Oh, look at us, the three of us." That's why she's beautiful, at her age.
She really that comes from. She's always been a beautiful lady, but there's much of it comes from the inside, and she as you say, people should really get to know her more, not from the propaganda, not
Surprising
from the other story.
when people get to know her. They will be surprised.
And you can see it when she interacts with people. I always say that she is the best politician I have ever seen. And the reason is, and one of the reasons is that whereas other people would have to say, oh, I have to go and talk to, oh, I need to see this because they're waiting for me. She loves it. She's happy to go there. She's happy to stay and to talk to people and to find out what are their lives about, to gossip.
Genuinely interested.
To gossip a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, what family do you come from? Oh, I know your aunt and I know this and I know that and I know this. And all of that is perfectly natural to her. And it's surprising because I read a paper that was written by a Harvard professor, and the paper was titled "The Makings of a Leader: The Qualities of a Leader." And one of the sections was about EQ and what is EQ and how to get it.
True.
And I read it. I said, "This is my mom," she doesn't know what EQ means.
That was before her.
It's just purely intuitive.
After her generation, yeah.
It's purely intuitive. It's not something. She said, well, if you ask her, how do you get on so well with people? And she will not be able to explain it to you. I said, and I think she just likes to be. She just likes people.
One time I was with her in the car, and you'd think that Imelda would just be in her own world because that's how people perceive her. But she notices everything and everyone. Look at the mga bata. Look at the entire ride. She was like noticing the world around her, and with a genuine concern. There were no cameras.
Yeah.
So with a genuine concern for how for how they live.
Yeah.
So
I see her sometimes when I was riding in the car and with these people who are asking for alms, for help, for whatever, and she's close to tears.
Yeah.
And you can hear her say, kawawa naman, kawawa naman yan.
I can attest.
Kawawa naman sila, tignan mo naman, kawawa. And that is something that we, as her children, have acquired. That hopefully that compassion, that concern for people that have really very little to do with you. But every time now, I have the same reaction, and especially when I'm with my children, I always remind you, there but for the grace of God go you. Swerte kayo. Huwag niyong kakalimutan yan. And then and I think to myself, we have to do a better job. We should not allow this to happen, that little children are going around, sleeping under bridges, sleeping on the street, begging for food. We have to do a better job.
To whom much is given, much is expected.
Absolutely. It is the great position or privilege. Great responsibility attaches to that, and we must realize that.
You mentioned your sons, no? You have 3. The eldest is very articulate.
Yes. Well, they all do a good job, I think.
Are you open to him joining politics or showbiz?
I'm open to my sons doing anything they want.
Even show business?
Anything, as long as they do it well, and they do it properly, and they work at it, not as a hobby, but they take it seriously. And be good at it. I always tell when people ask me, would you like your sons to go into politics? Well, yeah, I wouldn't hold them back. I will not particularly encourage them. But I will say that they can have a choice. But so long as they make the choice, they have to make a choice that they will live by. Now, whether or not any of them seems to have an inclination towards politics, we still can't tell. They're all in school. Yes. My eldest, Sandro, is graduating next month.
But when he represented you, when you were, I think, down with something.
I know. I had a bug in my stomach.
And he performed very well.
We basically begged him to go, and he said, "Sandro, you have to go because I can't make it," and he agreed. And one of the funniest things was I was watching the video afterwards when he said he was asked a question and he answered
very well.
And he answered quite well. And I saw him after watching the video. I said, "Sandro, how did you know to answer like that?" And he said, "Well, I've heard you answer that question before." And I said, I was amazed because you mean you actually listened to me?
I think that's
new.
Is it the one about the dynasties?
Yes.
Yeah, because he answered it very well.
Yes, he did. And I was
Extremely
you should
well.
have seen his parents. His parents were ear to ear. You know?
Because really, he answered it well. I mean, I was also surprised.
Even we were surprised. I never heard him say those things.
But because there was wisdom in the answer.
Well, we're so proud of him, and we still are. And all our sons, I think, have the capability somehow in them, and they'll find their place in the world, and they'll do all right.
My friend Debbie, remember we talked about Sandro's answer, and I say, yeah, you know, if your dad is a doctor, there's really a natural predisposition to want. I mean, it's not a guarantee that you're going to become a doctor,
Sure.
but if you see your parents doing well, doing what they do, of course there is that.
No, so we'll see. I mean, when it comes to politics, if they decide to enter politics, I will certainly be there helping them in every way that I can. But you know, you cannot force anyone into anything,
True.
especially once they come of age. And all my sons have fairly strong characters, so they'll find their place, and we'll just their parents, Lisa and I, my wife, will be on the sidelines cheering them on.
Well, at least if and when you're elected vice president, and whatever the future holds, at least they're old enough. You know?
Yes.
They're of that age when they more or less understand why things are happening and everything that everything that comes with politics.
I think that happened fairly early on.
Oh, okay.
And they would ask questions.
Being a
Why?
Marcos.
Why is this person saying this about you? Why is this person saying these terrible things about our Mama Melody, about Lolo, about this? And I'd say, I would just explain it to them, and I'd say that's politics. In politics, you always have
It's part of the territory.
you always have somebody who disagrees with you for whatever reason. So that's the life that we live. So get used to it. And it doesn't mean that we are bad people. It just means that these people do not agree with what we do, and would like to take our position away from us.
True.
So there is that element, and it wasn't difficult. I was only able to do that because when we were very young, we went through the same thing. There were headlines. I remember I was very young. My father was Senate President, and there was a period where the headlines every morning were about oust Marcos. Marcos did this, etc., etc. And finally, I asked an aunt, not my father, because I didn't know if I should, but I asked an aunt, and they said, why, what's this all about? And that's the explanation they gave, and I immediately understood. And from that day on, I knew how to balance what I read, what I heard, and I said, well, maybe some of it's true, maybe the others is not, but you have to realize that it is
see the bigger picture.
It is the process that we undergo in the political world.
Let's change the topic. Assuming you're already vice president, what is normally the vice president has a cabinet position. What is the department that you would like to head?
If given the chance, I'd like to handle Dole.
Oh,
Yes,
why?
because jobs is possibly the most important and significant problem that especially young people face. I was asked the other day, there are 1.5 million approximately graduates coming out this year. What do we do for jobs? And I'm not going to say go to Dubai, but that's sometimes that is the solution that they have. So we have to do much more. We have to protect our workers. We have to grow the economy in such a way that it is even. We hear all about the riches, the growth rate that is very high, etc., etc. But when you go out into the countryside, you can see that whatever riches are coming into the country, they are not going down to ordinary citizens. And we cannot depend on the so-called trickle-down system. Any economist will tell you that it doesn't work. The government has to actively do something for the proper distribution of wealth, and employment is the key. And the way we do that, I suppose, is to encourage SMEs, small and medium enterprises, even micro enterprises. We have to train our people better to be more prepared for the labor market. We have to have closer partnership with the private sector, because 90% of employees are in the private sector. We have to direct our infrastructure so that it increases the economic activity in different places. And there are so many things. Our OFWs also need protection. We have to increase it. It encompasses even the Department of Foreign Affairs. We have to fund them better so that when people are in need of assistance, they have some funding that they can avail of to help
respond to
help Filipino nationals. So all of these things are I see, and the reason that Dole is we have problems in every sector, but the reason I think Dole is ripe for with potential is because we don't need new programs, we don't need new laws, we don't need to change our policies. We just have to be better at supporting our workers. We just have to do a better job of making sure that there are no illegal recruiters, that there's no human smuggling, that they are not oppressed, that they are not as they travel abroad. We have to make sure that, for example, in a big issue is contractualization, where people have lost the security of tenure. They do not get the benefits.
Will you fight contractualization?
I would, absolutely. That's the first thing I do, because it is provided for in law. And it is not right that a worker does not have security of tenure. That it is not right that the worker who works sincerely, honestly, and is dedicated to their job does not get the benefits that they deserve, that their family do not enjoy those benefits. We have seen many instances where labor has gone to court and has won, and yet those legal wins have not been implemented. So this is something that we should just do, and within what we already have as mandates from the law, and as a moral duty to the workers that make the sacrifices.
Have you talked to Senator Santiago? She's your running mate.
Yes.
If she becomes president, have you talked about that arrangement that you'd like to be?
Oh yes, and she says, "Oh, you can do anything you want."
That sounds like her, no?
That's why it's great being her partner.
But it's interesting that even if she's not doing very well in the surveys, you are practically she's in the tail end, and you're practically number one.
Well, that's probably because she really has to look after her condition.
Which means you're a strong candidate.
Well,
on your own.
Again, I think it reflects what you were saying at the beginning, where the politics now
the zeitgeist of our time
is very much the zeitgeist of our time. Well, there's a good word. The zeitgeist of our time is very much on the individual character of a person, their performance, their record. And so that is.
I'm not a statistician, but I think you would even have better numbers when I look at the SWS sampling. How they allocate. No, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, it's 500, 500, 500.
Mm-hmm.
When Visayas is 18% and Luzon is, for example, 30 plus.
Yeah.
How is it 500, 500, 500? So if I don't know how they do it, but based on just looking at the figures, and they didn't even have. Like the baluartes, like that.
Yes.
So I think if it was done more if it's done properly, or you would be number one by a mile, but by several figures.
The methodology by which the surveys are conducted is extremely important. What questions are asked, where the sample comes from, how they weight the different. You just mentioned that maybe more weight should be given to Luzon because there's more, etc., etc. And there's the science of it, and we try to really analyze it properly. But now that we're in the campaign period, I really just look at the surveys, and put them aside, and go back to what I'm doing.
And go back inspired that you're gaining ground.
And well, yes, that's always good to know. But you also have to see where it's coming from, or where it's not coming from, or who it's, etc. All of these things. But if it is also a danger when you're in the middle of a campaign to adjust to every survey.
True.
Because every time you adjust to a survey, you start from zero.
You can't be reactive.
So you don't make any progress. So if you say, mali itong ginagawa natin, palitan natin palitan ng plano.
Focus.
Para ka nag-zero ulit. You're starting from square one. So that, for me, I've learned over the years that is not the way to approach it. The way to do it is to have a good plan, with the good ideas, and follow that plan. Of course, you adjust if things change, but the fundamental principles by which you campaign should remain all the way through the campaign.
Stay the course.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, this is all the time we have. It's been a pleasure, Senator Bongbong
Mike,
Marcos.
maraming salamat.
Thank you
very
so much. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm very happy that you gave us time. To the rest of Cebu, this has been Senator Bongbong Marcos and yours truly, Mike Lopez. It has been another edition of Open Mic. Good night and Godspeed.